The Silent Guest. A heavy rain pounded the Membo house, an elegant estate tucked away on the outskirts of a small town in Limpopo. On ordinary days the house stood proud and serene, but tonight it was shrouded in an unsettling silence. Inside, the family carried the weight of unspoken fears, each keeping secrets that threatened to surface. When Dumisani Membo returned from his business trip, he sensed something was wrong. The house was too quiet. Ignoring the chill creeping up his spine, he climbed the stairs and pushed open the bedroom door. There, on the bed, lay Nomvula, his wife. Her lifeless body was sprawled across the sheets, her lips blue, and her eyes wide open, frozen in a look of terror. Someone or something had suffocated her. Behind her, Simo, the youngest of the family at 10, peeked into the room. His voice, barely above a whisper, broke the heavy silence. "I saw someone." Dumisani turned toward him, startled. "What?" Simo lowered his gaze as if ashamed. There was someone else in the room last night. The family chose not to call the police immediately, fearing the scandal it might cause. But as days passed, the tension grew unbearable. Dumisani decided to contact Detective Themba Khumalo, an old friend. The moment Themba stepped inside the house, he felt the air was heavy with something unnatural. The house seemed uneasy, as if it harbored a dark presence lurking just out of sight. Aside from the family, the only other person living in the house was Thandi, the maid. She stood in the corner of the living room, her head bowed, her hands clasped nervously. The detective studied her carefully. "You know something, don't you?" Thandi shook her head silently, but something flickered in her eyes. Themba knew. She was hiding something. From that moment, strange things began happening in the house. Bully isolated herself, spending hours in her room, and Simo grew eerily quiet. But at night, Simo spoke to Umoya, an imaginary friend. He whispered to this invisible presence, sharing his fears and secrets, as if confiding in a sibling. Meanwhile, doors creaked open and shut by themselves, shadows crawled across the walls, and the faint murmur of voices echoed through the hallways. Objects were mysteriously moved, and the family became consumed by paranoia. Digging deeper into Thandi's past, Detective Themba discovered troubling rumors. Thandi had been dismissed from her previous job under accusations of witchcraft. Wherever she went, people said death seemed to follow. Dumisani became convinced that Thandi was the cause of the strange events, but Thandi refused to leave, insisting she was there to protect them from a greater danger. One evening, Simo's voice finally cracked under the weight of the truth. "Umoya says Mom died because she did something wrong." Thandi's body stiffened. She knew exactly what that meant. Nomvula had secretly performed an ancient forbidden ritual, one meant to summon a spirit that would bring fortune to the family. But instead of a blessing, Nomvula had awakened a vengeful spirit, one that now clung to Simo like a parasite. Umoya, the imaginary friend, wasn't a figment of Simo's imagination. He was the vengeful spirit, and he had manipulated the boy, whispering dark thoughts into his mind. Under the spirit's influence, Simo had suffocated his own mother that fateful night, unaware of what he was doing. Thandi realized they had little time left. The spirit was growing stronger, and if they didn't act soon, Simo would be lost forever. They needed to perform an exorcism, a purification ritual to banish the spirit before it consumed the boy completely. That night, the house erupted into chaos. Lights flickered wildly, windows slammed shut on their own, and the walls trembled under the weight of the spirit's rage. Ominous shadows slithered across the floors, hungry to devour anyone who stood in their way. In the center of the storm, Thandi knelt on the floor, drawing ancient symbols with trembling hands. The scent of burning herbs filled the air as the detective and Dumisani struggled to hold down Simo, who fought violently, his small body overtaken by the spirit's fury. Simo's voice, distorted and inhuman, hissed, "You can't get rid of me. So we won't let you have him." Thandi cried, her voice steady as she poured sacred water into the flames. The spirit roared, twisting the boy's body in unnatural ways, sending shivers down the spines of everyone present. Darkness clawed at them, threatening to swallow them whole. Then, just as it seemed all hope was lost, Simo's small voice broke through the chaos, weak and filled with sorrow. "I'm sorry." A bright light burst from the symbols on the floor, illuminating every corner of the room. The spirit shrieked, writhing in agony as it was expelled, leaving Simo limp and unconscious in the detective's arms. The house fell silent. In the stillness of the morning, it seemed the nightmare had ended. The air felt lighter, as if the spirit had been truly banished. But the damage was done. The family was shattered. Dumisani wandered through the house, burdened by the guilt of not knowing the truth about his wife. Puli, standing in the doorway, watched silently as Thandi packed her belongings and left without a word. Yet even as the sun rose over the Membu estate, Detective Themba couldn't shake a lingering doubt. Was the spirit truly gone, or had it simply gone dormant, waiting for another chance to strike? That night, as Simo lay in his bed, he opened his eyes slowly, gazing toward the door. His eyes seemed to focus on something invisible, something that no one else could.